Hello and welcome to the Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about some injuries, some minutes going up, minutes going down based on matchups, injuries, things of that nature. At point guard, we've got Ricky Rubio, hopeful to play, listed as questionable right now. Obviously, really the only benefactor, and it makes you feel sick when you have to talk about it, Zach LaVine, who was an okay play before, but his price has really risen with a couple big performances. So I won't be playing Zach LaVine anyway. Looks like Rubio's on the right side of likely to play anyway, so that should be fine. And then Tyreek Evans, doubtful once again. I mean, I know we keep getting updates on it. It doesn't seem like it's imminent that he's going to be returning, now. I don't think it was likely he would be playing tonight anyway. So that makes me look once again at Ish Smith, who's just been absolutely incredible. And, it's a fine matchup for him, too. Chris Paul, good defender, but overall, the Clippers haven't been great against the point guard position. Ish Smith's just been really, really good.
Yeah, and touch on the Rubio thing. I think LaVine, not your safest play, but if you want to take a shot at him in a tournament, why not? If Rubio sits 4,800 on DK, not that badly priced, but still, I don't feel comfortable about it. Love Ish Smith. I mean, the guy's just been consistently good. Evans, I know there was a sneaky game time decision last time, which threw us all off, but looking doubtful tonight, so Ish Smith in play again.
Yeah, and then major injury guy we know is out, Marcus Smart. Obviously, there's somewhat of a trickle-down effect. Avery Bradley is probably going to get the start again, or as he has the past couple games. Evan Turner, I know a guy that you're a big fan of, that gets a nice bump because he kind of runs the offense in the second unit there now that Isaiah Thomas is in the starting lineup. So really that doesn't have much of a direct effect as far as point guards go, but more of a trickle-down effect to some other guys with value.
Yeah, big fan of Evan Turner. I mean, the guy's seen good minutes, 36, 26, 32. Of course, there was the blowouts against Brooklyn and Atlanta there, but, he's been very solid. I think for a guy who's a shooting guard on a DK and small forward on FanDuel, you're looking at that nice value play in that mid-range.
Yeah, and then Magic Dellavedova, hopeful that he'll play tonight. A guy that you roster when you have to roster him, you never feel good about it, but in a matchup against Kemba Walker in Charlotte, if he does play and he's not limited, he's a guy you can throw in some tournaments. But ultimately, I think there's better options tonight. If you're paying up, though, obviously Steph Curry against Phoenix, you get him tonight in that high total and what should be a competitive game. Then you've got the opposite side of that. You've got Brandon Knight, who's been great recently. Obviously, you're not expecting the huge type performance, but he's shown a really nice floor recently.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. And I think if there's one guy that could possibly take down a tournament tonight, John Wall. Going to see Isaiah Thomas, and we saw what Teague did to him and quote-unquote being too small to defend. And I think while Wall hasn't been great, there's low ownership's going to be there because he simply just hasn't delivered, but a good matchup for him. I don't think that Boston defense is great without Marcus Smart.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And then another guy to talk about, Rajon Rondo, still seeing right around 40 minutes a game because he's been clearly the more productive player to Darren Collison. So he's a guy you need to look at as well, especially on FanDuel at his, I guess it's not a discounted price, but the DK one jumped up a lot quicker than the FanDuel one did. Shooting guard, not much to talk about as far as injuries go here. Kent Bazemore is questionable. Manu Ginobili is not going to play, didn't travel with the team. Neither one of those has a huge effect on anything tonight. Bazemore, maybe some more minutes for Thabo Sefolosha and Dennis Schroeder. Manu Ginobili doesn't really change a whole lot. We could see Danny Green see a couple more minutes, but Danny Green's the guy that we keep playing, thinking that he's going to have that big game. He did have a great game against Phoenix, but should see around 30 minutes. He's just not a big usage guy. So, I mean, maybe he should be able to hit value if you want to throw him in your cash games, but I just don't know how much upside he really has in a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, if that shot's not dropping, he's not doing much else, and that's what worries me because sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off. But for the price, with no Ginobili, give him a couple extra minutes, I don't think he's a bad play tonight. Matchup's certainly good.
Yeah, and one more guy, Nick Stauskas is out, so fire up Bob Covington once again, who's been great over his last three games. 32, 35, 35 minutes. If we're talking FanDuel scoring 33, 28, 39, he's been doing it all. I mean, big steal numbers, big rebound numbers. Scored 21 real points, at least 6 rebounds each game. So he's a guy that we saw it in the second half of last year. If you played NBA DFS last year, he was a popular play at small forward, and I mean, looks like he's becoming that once again. And I'm a huge fan of his tonight.
Yeah, I love his price. I love the matchup. I mean, hopefully, this game can stay fairly close. And, last game he didn't shoot the ball that well and still 14 boards and 6 steals. Of course, those are numbers that are very high, but, I mean, he's been great. I mean, hitting value, surpassing it last few games.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving over here to small forward, obviously Rudy Gay is going to be a very popular play once again. Played 36 minutes last game, ended up with 36 real points, 49 FanDuel points. Obviously, DeMarcus Cousins listed as doubtful tonight. That's another one of those. We'll get to the center play that's going to get a bump, but Rudy Gay, as far as usage goes, gets the biggest bump in this offense. And, I mean, at his current price tag, you're expecting mid-30s, upwards of 40 minutes if the game's close, potentially. So Rudy Gay is one of those guys that maybe you could fade him in tournaments, but not a guy that I'd be fading in cash games tonight.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the last game, the Kings used 3 guys off the bench. That's it, just 3. Darren Collison, Caspi, and Marco Bellinelli there. So, you're logging big minutes for all those guys with just 8 players on the court over a full game.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Caspi in himself is a nice cheap play. 31, 27, 32, and 39 minutes the last 4 games. Been a bit up and down. I mean, low point 14, but 23, 28, 35 in those other games. So he's definitely a guy who's seeing minutes, and when his shot's falling, he can provide you a really nice value there at a really cheap price. Elsewhere, small forward Luol Deng is out for tonight. You can see Justice Winslow picking up some more minutes, but I mean he's a guy who's seen a decent amount of minutes anyway, just not extremely productive with those minutes. So really, for me, it tends to think that you're looking at other guys to produce. Guys like Gerald Green going to take a couple more shots. Played 38 minutes last game, 22 fantasy points. So not quite looking at 38 minutes once again, but if he sees around 30, I wouldn't be surprised. He's a much better offensive player than Winslow, but also they're facing Carmelo Anthony, so maybe we see Justice Winslow get some more minutes here to try to match up better defensively with Anthony.
Yeah, I just think you and I both are probably on a consensus of where we're just Porzingis is it, and then we're moving on from this game.
Yeah, I mean lowest hole of the night, so don't be going crazy with that. Other guys at small forward, Paul George, DraftKings finally giving him the respect he deserves. He's the most expensive, and on a night with Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George is the most expensive over there on DraftKings at small forward, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy has been just absolutely incredible this year. Kind of hard to fit him if you're paying up for guys like Steph Curry in your cash games, but if you're not, I mean, a Rudy Gay, Paul George duo gives you an incredibly high floor at small forward tonight.
Yeah, I mean, possibly they could easily combine for 100 fantasy points. Look at another guy kind of along the similar lines of John Wall, not really producing a whole ton, but has those games. Tobias Harris. We talked about Fournier not having a great matchup, but Tobias Harris with a little more length in a good spot tonight against Milwaukee there. They rank in the bottom 5 in defensive efficiency. I mean, we know his upside, but, he also has that floor. Scott Styles we have to worry about there. So, but I do think, 6,100 on DK, it's not a bad price.
Yeah, I like that as a nice contrarian call. 66 on FanDuel, not a bad price either. So, and then as you mentioned earlier, Evan Turner, a guy to consider here as well. And then also got to look at Jeff Green, a guy who's just been playing very well recently. 19 or more actual points in 4 of his last 6. Even the 2 games where he didn't have those, he had 6 and 7 rebounds in those 2 games. One of the games was against Kawhi Leonard, so you can kind of just skip that one out of your memory. But I mean, 28-31, 21-16, 34-31. I mean, he's an incredible cash game play tonight, and it's tough as a Bob Covington fan that for me, looking for my small forward tonight. If you need the money, Jeff Green makes a lot of sense. I don't mind Covington, but Green probably the safer play, though.
Yeah, and if you want to stay in that game, if Zach Randolph sits again, Matt Barnes has been seeing 30 minutes over the last 5 games, and I mean, he's kind of like a cheaper option than Jeff Green there, and you don't feel good about Matt Barnes, never do. But I mean, he has been pretty solid, 29, 31, 20, 29 for DK points in the last 4 games.
Yeah, definitely a good call there. It's a guy, like you said, you don't feel good about clicking Matt Barnes into your lineups, but the way he's producing recently, I mean, low risk too at that price tag, so that's not a bad way to go. Power forwards, of course, you got Anthony Davis. He's going to be matching up with Blake Griffin and company there, but he's been tremendous recently. Blake Griffin, great athlete. One of those guys who, I don't know, maybe his religion doesn't believe in defense, but he doesn't spend much effort on defense. And Anthony Davis, of course, one of the better in the game. But I know you and I both are big fans of Kevin Love. It's hard not to be the way that he's been involved in the offense. It's been defer first for LeBron, get the ball to Kevin Love. And, I mean, you think about the guys he's going to be facing tonight, Cody Zeller, Marvin Williams, whoever else it may be down there. It's a great matchup for him.
Yeah, Kevin Love, definitely my favorite power forward play of the night. I mean, the matchup's just perfect for him. I think, if we're plugging anyone from the Cavs, it's Kevin Love in first. And this is another game where we're not too thrilled with the total. So kind of just one of those things where we're looking at Kevin Love and then moving on.
Yeah, and we should mention, technically, Timothy Mozgov's been upgraded to questionable. Yeah. Neither you or I believe that he's going to play tonight, but certainly something to monitor because obviously that'll take away some, more so from Tristan Thompson than from Kevin Love, but it'll change things a little bit. Obviously, Mozgov, not a huge minutes guy anyway, plays in the mid-20s most times anyway. Yeah. I'm not necessarily buying the whole questionable talk for tonight, but we'll see. If he does play, it certainly changes things for Thompson, but I think Love still remains a nice, solid play. Kristaps Porzingis next up. The issue with him always was minutes, and it hasn't been recently. 36, 37, 36 last 3 games. One of those games against the same Miami team, and he took Chris Bosh to school in that game. 20 and 14, 43 FanDuel points. Porzingis has been incredible, and I mean, a week ago, looked like everyone said Karl-Anthony Towns, Jahlil Okafor, easily rookies of the year, but I mean, right now, Porzingis getting my vote.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there, and I think finally we're seeing some minutes in the 30s, high 30s right now, 36, 37, 36, and you look at that Miami game, which was a blowout, and you still saw a ton of minutes just because he was producing, and God, I love the matchup again. Miami hasn't been great against power forwards of late, and we saw that last game.
Yeah, and then one more injury here at power forward. Kenneth Faried not going to play tonight. He's out once again. So Darrell Arthur wasn't particularly great last time out. 30 minutes, 11 and 5, 15 FanDuel points. Not bad. Not going to have a great matchup tonight against LaMarcus Aldridge. But if you need a cheap guy who is going to be locked into minutes, he's not a bad way to go. But I just think there are much better options on the board tonight.
Yeah, I mean, tough matchup against Aldridge. We're looking at actually Joffrey Laverne, questionable tonight, practiced in, but still no timetable, which who knows what that means. Looks like Jokic would be in play for us just because Tim Duncan's out tonight, so a much easier matchup.
Yeah, and then that's all for power forward. Looking over at center, obviously DeMarcus Cousins, the big name there, who is listed as doubtful. Tim Duncan out to rest for tonight. I'm really not chasing any Spurs centers, so that's not a situation I really care to dive into here. We did see that Andrew Bogut missed practice on Wednesday. He's been dealing with back injuries. They expect he's going to play tonight, but just keep your eye on that. Not a guy who's been playing big minutes anyway, between 17 and 21 his last 5, but that could certainly change some things for the Warriors as we've seen them go small before. So if for some reason he can't go tonight, then definitely get yourself some extra shares of Draymond Green if that's the case.
Yeah.
Elsewhere at center, really not much else to see as far as injuries go. So really, if you're looking at cheap guys, you're looking at Costa Koufos at $4,000 on FanDuel, where he's played big minutes, over 30 minutes last game, 34 minutes, and played well with DeMarcus Cousins sitting out. So tonight's matchup, not the best one as far as athleticism. He's beaten that matchup, but Karl-Anthony Towns has seen such inconsistent minutes recently that, if he's only seeing the court for 20 minutes at a time tonight, or 20 minutes not at a time, 20 minutes tonight, 20 to 25, then I'm still a pretty big fan of Koufos. And I mean, he's so cheap that he's such a low-risk play anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's my favorite value center. Jumping up a tier, I do like Marcin Gortat. Coming off a really nice game, and you're looking at his minutes, they haven't been huge, but did play 30. I mean, fantasy points per minute wise, he's been great this season, and he had a nice game against Boston, 10 and 8, 5 assists, 3 blocks. So Boston not the greatest team defensively, down low. So I think Gortat's a nice cheap play.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. That's going to wrap things up for us here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.